Okay, so the way I look at it in our culture, we're here in Kahnawake, we're all Tsi Niionkwarihò, and there was a time when we didn't even know who we were. We didn't even understand, basic languages, basic cultural practices, and it's been like in the last 40 years that there has been a real resurgence to bring awareness back to who we are, and it's not our fault. Through colonization we've lost a lot of who we were. So now we're trying to restore and re-implement all of our language and cultural practices, and it can't be just a month out of the year. It has to be every day, because when we look at who we are in our community, we don't have that many first language speakers anymore, and as our elders pass on, the language is gone with them, and we're a unique people because we don't come from anywhere else. This is where we come from. Turtle Island is where we always originated from, and so we don't have another country that we can go back to learn our language, to learn our culture, to have that. It just isn't possible. Just like, where no other culture has that, no other group of people have that, where they all have some place that they can go back to relearn their language. But for us, it's imperative that we know it now and we learn it now, while our first language speakers are still here, while our cultural experts are still living, because there's far and few in between, and to know that language and to know the ceremonies and to understand and be able to put those through, it just isn't something that you can learn in a day. It takes many, many years to be able to learn speeches and be able to have the ability to bring that type of a language, because it's a different type of learning than just your everyday Tsi Niionkwarihò language. So, ceremonial language is different than our spoken language. So there's more to learn. Now it's not just learning the language, but then they have to learn all of the ceremonies that go within that. And so we're running out of time. We're running out of time because our elders are passing on. The ones who have the knowledge keepers are passing, and we're not able to re-educate quickly enough before that time happens. And so to me, it's imperative that we who are in this organization have that realization that we have a responsibility also to help to reinstill that into our people, and to give them whatever tools that they're going to need to relearn. And we need people who can be who are willing to teach the younger ones. I can't think of the word right now. Mentorships, where they work with the elders, and that it's part of their job to relearn that so that it continues. It's so important because, like I said before, there isn't another place where we can go to learn this. So let's think about this, and how are we going to continue to save what we have. It's our responsibility, We have been, the burden is on us. And it's really it's frightening to think about, that if we don't do something differently and if we don't, make those changes, then what will it look like in 30 years?
So for me, I've developed and gained teachings and cultural teachings and just ways of being and ways of knowing, because I didn't grow up with the culture all that much. And so that's why it's personal for everybody. So my responsibilities may be different, and I guess they should be different. So in that diversity, there's really strength in the community. And so not everyone has the responsibility of maybe being a fluent speaker, but you're learning. Maybe some other jobs are tasked to be like ceremonial people. There's a need for that. But the important thing about culture, which I want to stress, is it's a connection with spirit, connection with the natural world, and connection with really everyone you meet, because it's all about relationships that you have with your higher power, with Sungwa Dizu, and then relationships you have with the natural world. For example, when we say Ohando Gariwedekwa, we cover all the items in the natural world and what that means, and it's really a gift. So that's a basic kind of foundation which I use personally, and I try to share that in my work as a Sago Disdain, as a traditional support worker. And it seems over the years I've gained a little bit of wisdom in the sense that I find that there's cultural approaches, when you share it with your clients, that's what they want, that's what they need. And it seems that cultural approaches have almost, it's so much benefits, and it provides the solutions. It provides a way to work through any difficulty, grief, loss, relationships, past trauma, abuses, residential schools, and between the intergenerations that come afterwards. So I guess as an organization, we want to highlight, we can't do it all, but take bits and pieces and meet the people where they're at. Just as we meet clients where they're at, we meet the staff where they're at, and this way we can build out programs. And so it doesn't seem so overwhelming too. I think we have to do so much, but little bits. For example, just last night, we learned some white corn teachings. White corn is about grief. But the symbolism of an ear of corn is very beautiful in the sense that you have the husk, or maybe the young corn. The husk will go around the corn, and that nurtures the corn. And so that's like a community where you feel nurtured, you feel listened to, you're protected until a mature cob is grown, and then there's a special corn on top. It's a mother kernel, it's called. But also the rows below the corn, below that mother kernel, is like us supporting each other, supporting the people. So just one example of a teaching. Corn is important in our culture, but it's a symbolism of supporting each other. It's medicine, as food, as a healer, and just it draws an imagery. You can paint a picture of one person needing help, and that support is there. We're all together. It's 8 rows around. So I hope to continue working in this way. It's a beautiful way. You grow personally, and you just feel that connection with whoever you're working with, whether it's client or staff. And when we're all together, there's really a strength, and and I always aim for that spiritual connection, because it's genuine, it's real, and if you practice that way, it's kind of like a muscle. You build I guess a stronger connection, or ways of working, ways of being, and ways of knowing. And other people will talk about the strength of the language. It's true, it's there. The basic teachings, Ojire is fire, Gahwajire is family. So we come from a family, we have our individual fire, but we also come from another family, and then there's a larger fire of the community, all fires together. So It's really a beautiful way. So I think I'll end it there. Yawa.
Yeah, so why is culture important? I think that we have to really reflect and understand whose culture we're honoring, whose culture we're looking at in terms of a diverse organization, and why we as a peoples are subjugated to 28 days, 30 days, or certain months to be showcased in a way of colonization and the impacts of the detriment things to indigenous people. You know, we're still carrying out that modalities and mindset towards indigenous people. So when we talk about culture, you know, what is culture? You know, it's become a fad, you know, a trend, a popular thing. So as part of the organization, you know, where do we go with that? How do we honor that? How do we put that in place? You know, for some time now, the past few decades, the community has spoken on where they want to go with language and culture in Tsi Niionkwarihò ways, right? I think that in a world of modern society and technology, you know, obviously being recorded and this can go virtual or shared within the community and organization, I think that it's a good way to refocus that question and bring up and implement some of the things that we're collecting dust on reports, you know, because Western society and these ideologies are affecting our peoples, you know, where we think that we're only from April 1st to April 28th or whatever the month is for cultural awareness. You know, and it's the same mindset when we go to ceremony where we're only from 9 to noon. Then we take off our hat and another hat to be suitable for society again. You know, there's no more encouragement or uplifting to continue these ways of life, to empower the younger people to come and learn and put these things into practice. It was earlier discussed about the fading away of knowledge keepers and ceremonialists and language speakers. You know, we're in a difficult state, difficult time, and you know, instead of a continuation of lateral violence amongst our own people, we should be encouraging one another to do good things, you know, to continue that learning process, you know, right back down to the fundamentals of the corn, you know, to support and nourish us. So I'll leave that there. There's a lot more speakers coming up. So thank you for having me.
Okay, so thinking about that question, it makes me think about the bigger business of KSCS for the Dearhouse, right? We're helpers to the community, and what we're trying to help is the bigger picture of healthy families, right? That's really our vision, and our mission has to do with helping build healthy families. And one of the things that is critical to that idea of a whole healthy person is to have connection to your identity and to your culture, and to be able to understand what that means. Because for so long, I would say for you know, all of us in this community have had impacts of the time, you know, of colonization and impacts of residential school and day school and what that did to our families and the disconnection that it created. I know that was what happened in my family, right? I've had grandparents who have grandfathers who've attended residential school, and in some cases that's the reason why the flow of language didn't continue in our family, and also where the fear came from, I find, with you know, connection to our culture and identity, that was something that definitely disrupted in my family and many people that I've met with and I've talked to over the last few years. I've been here at KSCS for 20 years, and I've done a lot of been involved in a lot of research in the community, and I have written so many reports and talked to so many people, and what came out over and over again was that idea of how important our culture is, and that this is something that the community wants to see at KSCS. So it's really, now it's like, okay, so what is our systems doing about it, and how are we going to start making the changes that people want to see? So we're in a good time right now. I find it's very important timing, because everyone is saying the same thing. Like, a lot of things are aligning in the same way. Different organizations in the community are putting out so much more right now. Like, I think like our community is at a better time than ever to access things that they want to learn, maybe that they didn't have access to before, because it wasn't safe, you know, for our previous generations to go and seek out some of these things and to learn about things that are important to them. And now we have so many more resources and workshops and people who are offering things so that we can continue, and we can you know, not forget about some of these important things. So now with the new role that I'm doing here at KSCS, it's really to help look at what does that mean to the bigger system. So to support our staff and our system and our programs, to look at what are they doing to incorporate that part of it, culture, into the work that they do. Our culture, our language, our worldview, right? The way of doing things, our way of doing things, and our worldview, and how important that was, because we had everything there for us at one time. It was part of everyday living at one time, and there's so many things that happened along the way to sever that. So it's starting to go back to move forward. I think that that's where we're at, is that you know, we really need to focus a lot more energy that way. And there's little bits of it happening here and there, and we're really happy to be able to support that. And that's the work that our Tsi Niionkwarihò, the committee, does in-house regularly as we meet, and then we talk about how can we build this into the work that's happening, how can we encourage staff learning. We also have a lot of staff that come to this organization that are non-Ngwehungwe, and it's important for them to be aware of some of these things so that they can better serve our community. So we also do things like that, educational parts, and we bring in presentations and workshops, and we also sit and work with some of these programs so that they can you know, get some build on some of these ideas that are happening. Another side of the work that I do that makes me think about this question is when I do suicide intervention training. This is something that I talk about a lot, is the impacts of how did we get to that point with our mental health and with suicide particularly. One of the things that is very clear in the research around Indigenous people, suicide, but just the greater mental health picture, is the idea of what we need to build healthier people and to build you know, strong, whole people. Is we need to look back at what does it take to have identity, purpose, and belonging. And those kind of things are so critical, especially for young people. And the identity part is, you know, knowing more than just like, I live in Kahnawake. It's like, okay, what does that mean to be Kanien'kehá:ka? What does it mean to be part of the bigger Haudenosaunee Confederacy? And what do you know about, what do you want to know about, you know, some of our stories and our teachings? And what does it mean to have a good mind? You know, all of these things come up with what the young people need to know, so that they are in a good place when they do have times in their life when they're low, you know, they're having struggles. It's like, if you have a strong sense of your identity, a strong sense of your culture to fall back on, and you feel like there's people you can go to that can support you with as a whole person, it's just amazing things that can happen. So this is what we want to see in the future, is to be able to build a stronger system and have more people with this understanding and mindset, so that they can provide the best service to the community. So that's the bigger picture of it for me. And when you look at Cultural Awareness Month, it's really just an opportunity to showcase what's going on in the community. And for us, it's a way to work in partnership and collaboration with others. Because we don't do a lot of this work out there in the community. It's all for our staff and our programs. But during Cultural Awareness Month, we can go and you know, get involved with other things that are happening and put more out there in the community. So it's a fun time, and just to highlight. The same thing with you know, when we do Spirit of Wellness Month, it's the same type of idea, getting out there, showcasing and collaborating, and you know, just making people more aware.
Hey, what guanurado? Kaunarorok na yujat. Ano wakskare wage utni mapitaroda. Kanien'kehá:ka geronu neni. Tano Tsi Niionkwarihò te jogu te yori humana. Chat te wani zerage ayede watte. Ane zionzade. Tanu ayawaski sagot ya again has rodio denius ahumste jok na hoda so from here and here, like, we have to bring to our ways to our work, you know. We talk about Cultural Awareness Month as being a blitz campaign for the community, and it's important because like some of my co-workers have said, we forgot who we were, you know, and those kinds of campaigns are just those quick reminders, you know. And there's a lot more going on in this community than there has been in a long time in terms of community involvement. You know, it's really blown up, I see, in the past even 10 years in terms of how much programming is out there, and even in, you know what, for some places like Sagot Yadagenhas, we have like trials and turbulations and changes and things fluctuate. So we've had a lot of work done in Tsi Niionkwarihò, the areas in the past, but because of staff turnover, all sorts of things happen, that things change. And you know, we have staff who retire, who take all that knowledge with them, so we have to backfill. And we talk a lot about that in terms of mentorship programs that might need to happen, that so people can really, you know, share how they work with their co-workers, so that work can continue on. You know, for those of us who might be nearing retirement ages, we've had a lot of experience in the organization in the past, say, 30 years or so. And it's really just to make sure that the next generation of Sagot Yadagenhas Rodeo Denius really take it to heart that we want this now, like Tsi Niionkwarihò to be the mainstream at KSCS, because the community's asking for it. You know, they've been asking for it for decades. And like I said, we've had hit and misses. You know, there's like programs that have worked that maybe don't continue these days. And so we really want to, the committee as a whole at KSCS, Tsi Niionkwarihò, the committee, would really like to see KSCS really putting our efforts into ensuring that this happens now. You know, people talked about more of a team approach, because right now there's two staff, myself and my co-worker Christine Loft, who we kind of head up the Tsi Niionkwarihò, the committee, and we have about 9 of us together. All the other staff who've talked today have their regular jobs to go to, so they don't have the focus that Christine and I do. But I've seen a lot of inroads in the past, say, even 3 years since we've been starting this program in 2017. But in the last 3 years, we're starting, like, some of the training is starting to come. Now I see people in the hallways talking about it more. I see people in the hallways using more of the language, you know, because we also teach mini sessions every once in a while with staff about Gunyageha. So bits and pieces, but yes, there is a frustration that as a whole, you know, the big picture is frightening, because we do have a lot of language, especially first language speakers who are passing, and cultural knowledge keepers passing, that kind of thing. So, you know, we have to just keep going with what we have. And I try to not get too negative and feel bad about that, but it's hard. It's hard not to feel bad. But all I can do really is just to make efforts moving forward, and where the committee here at KSCS is there to help staff to do that as well, you know, in little bits. Because not all of us know any for sure. We don't know all of it. Not one person in this organization can say they know all of the culture or all of the language. But together, we all put those pieces together. And traditionally, that's the way it is anyway. Like, there's so much to learn in the culture that not one faith keeper knows everything, not one chief knows everything, you know. But it's always been this communal living where the society brings that together. You know, you help each other out and you teach each other, and that's where we want to go and where we see this happening. So, yeah. Yeah, I'll go. Talk to you.